Hello, everyone. Can you imagine a birthday turning into the most heartbreaking day of your life? For Eleanor Davis, that's exactly what happened when the son she raised, loved, and sacrificed everything for betrayed her in a way that's almost unthinkable, abandoning her in a nursing home with a packed suitcase and papers stripping away her freedom. But that's just the beginning. Join me on Eleanor's unforgettable journey, from gut-wrenching pain to astonishing resilience, as she reclaims her life and writes a bold new chapter filled with purpose. If this story touches your heart, please leave a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss more inspiring stories like this one. They say a mother's love is boundless, patient, forgiving, eternal. I believed that. I lived it. Every skinned knee, every late-night worry, every school recital, I was there for my only son, Michael. I'm Eleanor Davis, and this is my story. I woke up on my 65th birthday with a lightness in my chest, that familiar spark of hope. I was alone in my small ranch-style home in Springfield, Illinois, a house filled with memories of raising Michael and my late husband, George. The walls held photos of better days: Michael's graduation, our family vacations to Lake Michigan, George's retirement party. Michael hadn't called much lately. He said his job as a financial consultant was demanding, that his wife, Lisa, was struggling with their 2 kids. But surely, I thought, he'd show up today. I made blueberry muffins, his favorite since he was a boy, and set the table for 2. By noon, the muffins were cold, and my phone was silent. I checked it obsessively, rereading old texts, clinging to the connection they promised. My heart sank, but I refused to let it break. I busied myself dusting the living room, humming hymns from my church choir days to keep the loneliness at bay. At 2 p.m., the doorbell rang. I hurried to open it, and there stood Michael, his familiar lopsided grin softening his tired eyes. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said, holding a modest bouquet from the grocery store. Carnations, not my favorite, but I didn't care. I hugged him tightly, ignoring the faint sting in my chest. "You came," I whispered. "Of course," he replied, his voice clipped, his pat on my back stiff. "Get dressed. I made reservations for lunch." I didn't question it. I grabbed my coat, my sensible purse, and the shoes that pinched but made me feel put together. I felt a flicker of joy, like I was 30 again, heading out with my boy. But as we drove, I noticed we weren't heading toward Springfield's downtown or any restaurant I knew. Instead, we turned onto a quiet road lined with oak trees, their leaves a mix of gold and crimson. I glanced at Michael, his hands tight on the steering wheel. Then I saw the sign, Maple Grove Senior Living Community. "Michael, what is this?" I asked, my voice sharp. He cleared his throat, eyes fixed on the road. "Mom, we need to talk. It's not safe for you to live alone anymore. The house is too big, and with your memory issues—" "Memory issues?" I snapped, my heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" He kept talking, his voice rehearsed. "I found a great place. It's safe, comfortable. They have activities, people your age. You'll love it." I laughed, a bitter sound that echoed in the car. "You're kidding. You brought me here on my birthday?" He parked and got out, avoiding my eyes. "Let's go inside." I stayed rooted in my seat, my hands trembling. That's when he opened the trunk. There was my suitcase, packed and ready. I stared at it, frozen. "You went through my things?" I whispered. He sighed, exasperated. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Mom." Inside, the facility was a blur of smiling staff, antiseptic smells, and beige walls. Michael handed over papers, legal documents, a power of attorney with my name and his signature. It was done before I could protest. They led me to a small room with a twin bed, a stiff armchair, and a window overlooking a parking lot. My birthday gift. I sat on the bed, still in my coat, clutching the wilted bouquet. No cake, no candles, just silence. That night, I lay awake, the mattress too firm, the sheets reeking of bleach. The distant hum of a TV and the soft steps of nurses filled the quiet. I replayed every moment with Michael over the past year, searching for signs I'd missed. The times I'd loaned him money for emergencies, the excuses I made for his absence, the moments I swallowed disappointment because I loved him. Something cracked inside me that night, not just my heart, but my trust. The next morning, I asked for my phone. The nurse, a young woman with a tight smile, said Michael had canceled the line, claiming it was too confusing for me. That's when it hit me. I wasn't here to be cared for. I was here to be erased. I stopped eating for 3 days, not out of defiance, but because the food tasted like ash, and the truth was too heavy to swallow. Maple Grove wasn't cruel, but it was suffocating. The staff called me honey or dear, as if I were a child or a ghost. No one asked about my life, my years as a school secretary, my love of gardening, the quilts I made for charity. To them, I was just room 204, another old woman in slippers who might forget her own name. But I hadn't forgotten a thing. My roommate, Clara, was kind but frail, sleeping most of the day and muttering about her children who never visited. I listened to her stories, nodding, because I knew the ache of absence too well. To keep my mind sharp, I watched the news in the common room, worked the daily crossword, and reread a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird from the facility's library. But something inside me was sinking, a darkness I couldn't shake tuning in to the evening news or solving crosswords with faded pencil stubs. But something inside me was sinking, a darkness I couldn't shake. On the 5th day, I met Joyce, a part-time aide who filled in when another staff member called in sick. She was in her late 20s, with warm brown eyes and a quick smile. While checking my blood pressure, she said, "You don't seem like you belong here, Eleanor." I blinked, startled. She leaned closer, her voice low. "Some folks need this place, and that's okay. But you're not lost." Her words cracked the shell I'd built around myself. We talked, and I told her about Michael. Not the full story, not yet, but enough. She listened, really listened, not just nodding to be polite. Later that day, she slipped me a small object wrapped in a napkin. "This was Mr. Thompson's," she whispered. "He passed last week. We found it in his room, tucked in a drawer. No one claimed it. It was a lottery ticket, slightly creased, dated 2 weeks earlier." I chuckled, dry and brittle. "What, you think I should try my luck?" Joyce winked. "The world owes you something, don't it?" I didn't think much of it at first, but that night, restless and desperate for distraction, I used the facility's ancient computer in the lounge. The hallway was quiet, the only sound the hum of the vending machine. I typed in the ticket's numbers, my fingers clumsy on the keys. The screen loaded, and I froze. $12 million. I checked again, my heart racing. I printed the confirmation, folded it tightly, and tucked it into my sweater pocket. It wasn't joy I felt. It was fear, sharp and electric. If Michael found out, if anyone found out, I'd never be free. The next day, I pulled Joyce aside in the hallway. "I need to talk to someone," I whispered. "Someone legal, someone private." She didn't ask questions, just nodded. Joyce knew a volunteer attorney, Paul, who visited Maple Grove monthly to help residents with wills and small legal matters. I waited 3 agonizing days until he arrived, my heart pounding every time a staff member glanced my way. Paul was in his 40s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. We met in the staff break room, a cramped space smelling of burnt coffee. I slid the lottery confirmation across the table and said, "Can you help me disappear?" His eyebrows shot up, but he didn't hesitate. "We'll need to move fast," he said. The next week was a whirlwind. Paul helped me set up a blind trust to hide the winnings, ensuring Michael's name was nowhere near it. We notarized documents, opened a new bank account, and secured a temporary mailing address. I signed a new will, leaving everything to charity, anonymously for now. Michael had already taken my life once. I wouldn't let him do it again. Joyce arranged for a discreet exit. On a chilly morning, just before dawn, I left Maple Grove wearing borrowed clothes and carrying a small duffel with essentials. Joyce hugged me tightly. "Don't forget us when you're free," she whispered. I nodded, my throat too tight for words. I slipped into a waiting cab, my heart hammering as the facility faded into the distance. The bus ride out of Illinois was long and quiet. I sat in the back, a scarf covering my hair, clutching my duffel like it held my life. It did. I didn't know exactly where I was going, only that I needed to be far from Michael, far from the life he'd tried to erase. Paul had arranged the purchase of a modest home in rural West Virginia, a place off the grid but livable, with no neighbors too close and no cameras to track me. The house was a single-story cottage, its paint peeling, but its bones sturdy. It had a wood stove, a small porch, and a yard overgrown with wildflowers. The silence was different here, not the suffocating quiet of Maple Grove, but a peace that let me breathe. I settled in like a shadow, cooking simple meals, walking to the mailbox, and watching the stars from the porch, wrapped in a quilt I'd bought at a thrift store. I checked the news obsessively, half expecting my name to appear. Missing woman wins millions, son claims instability. But there was nothing. I kept the lottery ticket in a lockbox under a loose floorboard, alongside my new will, a burner phone, and a notebook where I wrote my thoughts to stay grounded. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. Using a fake email, I searched for Michael online. His social media was a performance of grief. If anyone has seen my mother, Eleanor Davis, please contact me or the Springfield police. She's been missing for days. We're worried for her safety. The comments were filled with prayers and praise for his devotion. I laughed until tears stung my eyes. Devotion? He'd packed my life into a suitcase and signed away my freedom. The photo he used broke me. It was from my 60th birthday. Me in a green dress, smiling as Michael cut the cake. We looked happy. How easy it is to fake love in a snapshot. The first sign of trouble came 2 weeks later. A plain envelope in my mailbox, no return address. Inside was a single sheet, a photocopy of a loan document dated 15 years ago, bearing my signature and George's. It was from a bank we'd used, with a notary stamp, but I'd never signed it. The amount, $75,000. My stomach churned. George would never have hidden something like this, and Michael had never mentioned it. I dug into the lockbox, pulling out the financial records Paul had helped me salvage before I left. Among them were 3 more documents with my signature, each a forgery, each tied to loans or credit lines I'd never authorized. The realization hit like a slap. Michael had been stealing from us for years. It explained the tension in our final years with George, the canceled trips to the Grand Canyon, the bad investments George blamed himself for. It explained Michael's new cars, his sudden business ventures. It was him all along. I spent days piecing it together. Using the burner phone, I contacted the bank, posing as a concerned relative. They confirmed an active loan in my name, defaulted 3 months before I was left at Maple Grove, with a balance of $120,000. I found emails Michael had sent on my behalf, claiming I was too frail to handle my accounts. He'd even forged a letter from a doctor I'd never met, citing early dementia. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was criminal. I called Paul, my voice steady despite the rage. Michael forged documents, loans, accounts, everything. I need to protect myself. Paul was calm but firm. We'll build a case, Eleanor, but you need to stay hidden for now. A month after I left, another letter arrived. This one in Michael's handwriting. I know what you did. This isn't over. No apology, no remorse, just a threat. I tucked it into my lockbox, my hands shaking but my resolve hardening. Michael's public campaign intensified. Local news ran stories. Son searches for missing mother, fears she's vulnerable. He gave interviews, his voice breaking just enough to sell the lie. Online, people speculated, was she kidnapped? Senile? Manipulated? Michael played the grieving son perfectly, but I saw the cracks. His business was faltering, his wife was distant, his creditors were circling. Then came the legal blow. A certified letter from the Sangamon County Courthouse arrived, stating Michael had filed a petition to declare me mentally incapacitated. He claimed I'd shown erratic behavior for years, backed by statements from a neighbor I barely knew and a colleague of his I'd met once. He included edited voicemails, moments of me venting about loneliness or forgetting a minor detail, spliced to make me sound unhinged. He wanted my accounts frozen, my trust seized, and me dragged back to Springfield. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Paul drove to West Virginia that night, his face grim as he read the documents. They're counting on you to panic, Eleanor. Don't. We'll fight this. We gathered evidence, my financial logs, a journal I'd kept since leaving Maple Grove, and a new psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Helen Carter, a retired psychiatrist who lived nearby, spent 4 hours with me. She listened as I recounted my life, my pain, my clarity. Eleanor, she said, you're sharper than most people half your age. The courthouse in Springfield was a cold, echoing building, its halls lined with people waiting to settle their fates. I wore a navy blazer, a silver brooch George had given me, and shoes that clicked with purpose. Michael was already seated when I entered, standing briefly, his face a mask of concern. I didn't meet his eyes. The judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes, called the case. In the matter of Eleanor Davis's mental competency. Michael's attorney, a slick man with a practiced smile, went first, painting me as confused, vulnerable, possibly exploited. He played the edited voicemails, submitted a letter from a psychiatrist I'd never met, and claimed my disappearance proved I was unstable. I took the stand, my hands steady. My name is Eleanor Davis. I am 65 years old, and I am not lost. I am not confused. I am not anyone's victim. I presented Dr. Carter's evaluation, certified and detailed, confirming my mental clarity. I handed over financial records, call logs, and an affidavit from Paul, attesting to my lucidity when I left Maple Grove. Then I paused, holding up a sealed envelope. I have more evidence, Your Honor, but I'll save it for now, unless it's needed. The envelope contained Michael's forgeries, the loans, the tax fraud I'd uncovered with Paul's help. I didn't need to show it yet. The threat was enough. I looked at the judge. My son put me in a facility without my consent, took my phone, and tried to take my life. Now he wants my dignity. Don't let him. The courtroom was silent. Michael's attorney scrambled, but the judge cut him off. I need time to review the evidence. We'll reconvene in 3 weeks. As we left, Michael tried to catch my eye, but I walked past, my head high. The war wasn't over, but I was no longer the prey. Michael didn't wait. Within days, he escalated his campaign, appearing on local TV, tears in his eyes, claiming I was being manipulated. Social media buzzed with speculation. Who was hiding Eleanor Davis? Was she a victim or a mastermind? But the tide was shifting. People began questioning Michael's story, his motives. I called Paul. It's time. I handed him a folder with every forged document, every loan, every tax return Michael had filed in my name. Send it to the Department of Justice, anonymously. Paul nodded. This will change everything. Using an alias, I donated $6 million to a national elder advocacy group, sparking a campaign about financial abuse. The media connected the dots, and whispers grew louder. Was Eleanor Davis the anonymous donor? A journalist, Sarah Mitchell, reached out through Paul. She wanted my story. No names, just truth. We met in a diner in Ohio, far from West Virginia. I told her everything. Maple Grove, the betrayal, the lottery. She listened, her recorder running, her eyes wide. The story ran, Mother or Millionaire. The fight to silence Eleanor D. The internet exploded. Comments flooded in. Something's wrong with the son. Let her speak. Michael's facade began to crumble. 2 days before the second hearing, Paul got a call. The DOJ had opened a case against Michael for wire fraud, identity theft, and tax evasion. He didn't know it yet, but his lies were catching up. The second hearing was colder, the air heavy with tension. Michael looked worn, his suit slightly wrinkled, his lawyer whispering frantically. Paul went first, presenting Dr. Carter's testimony, our timeline of Michael's financial moves, and a public record of his DOJ investigation. The judge's eyes narrowed as she read. Michael took the stand, his voice unsteady. I love my mother. She's not herself. Someone's manipulating her. I stood, facing him directly. I am myself, Michael. I'm the woman who worked double shifts to buy your school supplies, who believed in you when no one else did, and you left me like I was nothing. The judge's ruling was swift. Based on the evidence, Eleanor Davis is competent and independent. The petition is dismissed. Her accounts and autonomy are restored. I didn't cry, but my hands shook as I gathered my papers. Michael left without a word, his eyes hollow. The DOJ's case moved quickly. Michael was indicted, his life unraveling in headlines. His wife filed for divorce, his clients fled, his world collapsed. I didn't gloat. The pain of losing my son lingered, but I buried it beneath purpose. Sarah's full interview aired nationally. I spoke plainly. This isn't just about me. It's about every older adult dismissed, silenced, or betrayed. We are not invisible. Messages poured in, stories of survival, of resilience. I wasn't just Eleanor anymore. I was a voice. I launched the Eleanor Project, a foundation to protect elders from abuse with legal aid, hotlines, and advocacy. I returned to Maple Grove one crisp morning, greeted by Joyce's warm embrace. The facility had changed. Brighter lights, better books, real coffee. I spoke to the residents, my voice steady. You are not a burden. You are not forgotten. You are not finished. Back home, I wrote a letter to myself. Dear Eleanor, you weren't weak, you weren't foolish, you were a woman who loved deeply. When they tried to erase you, you wrote your own ending. I am so proud of you. I placed it on the mantel, next to a photo of George and me, smiling in better days. Michael's trial came and went. He took a plea, 12 years. I didn't attend. I was too busy living. The Eleanor Project grew, and I grew with it, finding peace in the quiet West Virginia mornings, the wildflowers, the stars. For the first time, I was free, not just from Michael, but from the weight of a love that had blinded me. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and please share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear where you're watching from and what this story meant to you. Your voice matters, and I can't wait to connect with you all.